Hi, everybody. Welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa, and it says no one's watching, but I can see you in the chat, so I know you're there. Please give us a like, share the video, and we'll be right back with a hard and fast hitting show with Johnny Litecoin. We'll be right back right after this. Hey, Johnny, how are you doing?
Lisa, I'm doing good. How you doing this week?
I'm doing great. There's a lot of things happening. It's pretty exciting. I'm not going to play all of the videos because I know that we have a quick show today, but pretty exciting stuff. It looks like it's impeachment week. Marjorie Taylor Greene is bringing it hard and fast. Director Ray, she filed articles on impeachment, and today was Joey's day. So yay.
Yeah, I got some steak to eat, everyone, and that's why we got to fight for our freedoms. We can keep eating steak. We don't want these wokesters to say, hey, you can't eat. You already had your pound of steak for the month. You can't have any more, kind of thing. So
that's right.
I want 50 pounds of steak for the month. That's my freedom.
That's right. I do want to play this really quick.
Russians are bad. Russians are evil. After all, wasn't the Soviet Union bad and evil? This is not the Soviet Union. This country today is radically different. If anything, it is extremely religious, culturally conservative, and the Russian military has behaved extraordinarily well.
What is really going on the ground in Ukraine versus what I just read at the Times in London or what I read in the New York Times on a regular basis?
Systematically, we have lied about everything involving Russia and Ukraine now for months, if not years. Russia is by no means the evil aggressor in this thing. If anything, Russia launched an operation that it felt it had to secure its country.
This is the biggest existential threat to humankind that no one pays attention to.
Well, we can use just a tactical nuclear weapon. I always loved that. We just want to use a small weapon to make a point. This is insane. The use of any nuclear weapon under any circumstances, it will produce Armageddon. We need to understand that. We should be grateful that Mr. Putin has turned out to be someone capable of exercising restraint. This is not someone who's given to emotion and ruled by emotion, thank God. If you look at China, they come in with lots of cash. They offer to do things and expand their relations, but they're not interested in involving themselves in the internal affairs.
Okay, we should watch this, but that is not the video that I meant to share.
That was pretty good, though.
It's a great one, but it's the same guy. When I went to YouTube, that is not what he said. It was like a 15-minute thing and of that guy talking about, and it was London Real, and it was like him talking about the U.S. government lied. Maybe it was this one. Dang, now. No, that's not it. Okay, I don't know. Now I'm really sorry. I was listening to it and he said we needed to bring martial law, and he gave like a really great plan. Dang it. I was just listening to it. I wonder if it's still on my phone. How weird. Like when you listen to it on one and then
we got a lot going on right now. We have this war going on that, like he said, no one pays attention to. Like everyone over here is like, people are oblivious to it. They don't realize the United States is at war right now. They don't realize it. Like they're just like, oh, Ukraine and Russia. No, the United States is at war right now. And they did it illegally. They didn't go to the people to get authorization. They didn't go to Congress to get authorization. This is a proxy war they're fighting, a secret war. We're funding it. I mean, look how much money we've sent to freaking Ukraine. And now our government's about to be out of money. I was watching J Snip 4 last night. He was or maybe it was 2 nights ago, he was talking about how the EBT cards are going to run out, and you will see issues when those EBT cards go out.
Yeah, I actually was listening to somebody yesterday or the day before, and they said that actually Medicaid and Medicare federally went broke in 2015, and that Social Security will be broke in 2032. There is no money there, and this is where, like it's gone, it's done, it's bankrupt. And so I found an article that said what happens when there's a bankruptcy and how that's handled. And let me see. They said, basically, we go back to the states. So it says, what organization would oversee the execution of a U.S. federal government debt default, and what authorization would they be given to deal with the situation? No suggestions are offered when the scale is numerically mind-numbing, since the U.S. has used debt as its drug of choice and an overdose of its fiscal reality. Outcomes would be a lowered federal bond rating by 3 private bond rating agencies, where the reality of higher interest rates being offered on newly issued federal debt cannot be ignored. Federal government spending cuts in some form will be required by realities of economic law, which includes reducing the number of federal employees. I'm fine with that. Abolishing federal agencies. Also okay with that.
I'm fine with both of those.
Right. Reducing and reforming military budgets, selling federal government property, delegating federal programs to the states, reforming the, reducing military budgets, selling federal property, reforming the federal entitlement programs of programs of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Federal government tax revenue to repay the known debt with interest will rise as a percentage of each year's future federal budget. One impact from federal government debt default would be that the U.S. dollar would no longer be the global reserve currency, and you're already seeing that. Dollars in many national reserve banks will come back to the U.S. Holding dollars will be like holding a hot potato. And then they go on to talk about different numbers. Many mutual fund holders, like retirees, city and state retirement systems, 401k account holders, will be impacted by this unfolding event. The direction of an individual or business when they emerge from federal bankruptcy, hopefully, is humility. Looking back with a perspective of mistakes made, learning from these mistakes, and moving forward with a focus to benefit their family and community. And we started talking a little bit before we got started. A lot of these, even Republicans, are not doing what the people's will is. They're there, and they're, I don't want them to push this debt ceiling thing through. If it's broken, don't hold it up. Let the thing break. They say there's a thing in like blockchain or dev world, break it fast, or break it well, break it hard, or something like that. Like when you're making something, you want to make it unbreakable. If we have a broken system, let it break and let something new. And government has not always and doesn't have to manage our money. We don't need a third party. Peer-to-peer free markets are
the separation of money and state. I mean, that's I don't want them to fix this debt ceiling thing. It's broke. Look at this, a debt ceiling. So they could, it shows it's what a Ponzi scheme it is. So they can just keep borrowing more and borrowing more and borrowing more. That's why everything keeps costing more. That's why, like we were talking about last week, college education is rising so much. Mm-hmm. It's not just because of inflation. It's because the government got involved and said, let's send every kid to school. So it's outpaced the rate of inflation so much. I don't want them to fix this thing. As far as
they've done it so many times before, and it's only put us in a worse and worse situation.
Worse and worse spot. And then you just keep kicking the can down the road. It's going to be worse for your kids, worse for your grandkids. Time to rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get rid of this shit. You know what? then it'll force them to say, well, what's really important that we have to work with, and I think a lot more stuff should go back to the state and local level. It doesn't work ruling from a federal government. That's why there's 50 states, there's counties, there's townships. You know, every town has town council, city council, boards. More needs to be done at the local level. And you know, every step of the way, they're like, they look to the federal government for funding or this. Stop doing that. Stuff needs to come from the local grassroots. Stop looking to the federal government for funding. It's not in the best interests of we the people. You know, I was explaining today to somebody what it means to be libertarian. I said, you want small government. I said, this isn't what America was founded on. It's supposed to be a small government for the people, by the people, an equal balance of power, not this big behemoth and all these programs and all these agencies and all this red tape. Just look at it from a crypto perspective. You know, we have all these different agencies. The SEC seems to be the most powerful, but they purposely and intentionally won't come out with any statement about crypto. They just keep it in a cloudy murkiness. So what happens if you got to swim through cloudy, murky water? You don't want to swim through it. You're like, I don't know, maybe there's alligators in there. I don't know. I don't want to get bit. And that's how companies are. That's why we're seeing a lot of the price suppression in crypto, because companies like, hey, look, I don't want to get caught in the middle of the water and then I get bit by the alligator, the SEC being the alligator, because they didn't define the rules of the road. But what happens if you have clear water? You look in the water and say, well, coast is clear. I'm comfortable to swim through that. The alligators aren't around to bite my legs off.
Absolutely. Just the distrust that there is in America right now. Oh, well, and in a lot of places in the world, I think that's where trust has to be brought back. And right now, about the only way that you can do that is peer-to-peer, a local community. We've got to bring trust back. And I think there's many ways we can do that, but a lot of it's going to have to be bringing us back to the Constitution. There's a lot of states, I think 23 or 25 states that are bringing gold and silver as legal tender.
Which is big. I like that.
Yeah, and Texas is bringing a digital currency backed by gold and silver as an option, and they're working on that.
That's actually cool because they have that bullion repository.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They're going to link it to a Visa card. Everything's linked to a Visa. But again, that's the rail to work. Like I said, Visa is not necessarily the bad guy. Right. They're just the railway that runs through all these point of sale systems. So now you'll be able to, I guess, deposit bullion at their repository or whatever. And you can spend now tax-free. I'd much rather, in a system like that, where I know it wasn't the Federal Reserve, if I knew it was trusted, say, hey, you buy some gold and silver, deposit it there, you trust it, that you can get it out if you need it. And now I have this Visa card I could spend. I'm spending sound money rather than Fed notes. That's actually a good system.
And Arkansas passed a law that it is tax-free when you spend in precious metals and gold and silver. Is that always the case? Because you just said that's tax-free in the Texas thing. Is it always tax-free when you're spending in precious metals, in gold and silver?
Depends on the state. Depends on the state. And then you might have to be accountable for those capital gains taxes and all that. And they might say, well, what price, just like if you sell a crypto, well, what price did you buy at? What price did you sell at? What's your gain on that? Sales tax. Again, they shouldn't be, in theory, there shouldn't be sales tax if you're buying gold or silver. You're converting into a money.
Yeah.
Not
if it's legal tender. Yeah.
Legal tender, there should be no sales tax on that. So this is important stuff. It's good stuff. But again, the trust is gone in the federal government. Look what they did to us with the Patriot Act. Look at that. That was designed to be weaponized against we the people. That wasn't designed for terrorism. I said that from day one. I said that from day one. I brought that up to Kelly recently because she remembers when we were in college at the time. And I said, do you remember I opposed that? And she goes, I remember you were adamantly against it. And I said that it's a slippery slope because people are like, oh, this is for terrorism only. I said, how? And I said, who are they to define a terrorist? Just because they said, oh, buildings got knocked down. These are the terrorists right here, even though we didn't even go to war against those people. We went to war against somebody completely different. They manipulated us, right? Kind of like balloons in the sky kind of thing. But even with that said, right, I said there's no way they're going to just use it for terrorism. First, they'll use it against like mobster type of people, right? They'll go after
and then they started pulling metals out of the system, and specifically at TSA. They started pulling metals out of I think that was the biggest use at TSA, was to pull precious metals out of through the airport.
Or precious metal captures. You can't get through. I mean, I was going to the Litecoin summit. I had 20 maybe 20 or 40 Litecoin rounds with me because I remember back in the day I was selling them, and they stopped. I almost missed my flight because of it. I mean, this is not a lot of money I had on me.
I had my grandmother's silver compact, so it's a mirror, and it's silver, and then I had one Litecoin round next to it in my purse. And I was coming back from a meetup or a conference or something, and I got stopped, which I always get harassed in TSA. Part of the reason I drive everywhere now. And my friend was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy!" Like she knows, like, just go on, because I always get stopped. And I was like, I don't know what. And she goes, they go, "No, we think you have some jewelry or something, metal jewelry in your purse." And I was like, "No." I said, "I mean, I got some cheap bracelets in there or something from Rustic Cuff, or, some little." And they were like, "No, we think you have some coins in here." And I was like, well, even if I do, that's not illegal to have coins.
Especially if they're legal tender. But again,
right, they were going for my coins. They out and out were kind of told they're not looking for your over 3 ounce bottle of liquid. They're looking for precious metal.
No, 100%. They are. So it's, they started taking the silver out of the coinage in 1965, first year that they actually did it before then. That's what people don't realize. Even though in 1964, 1957 or whatever, it was 90% silver, it wasn't even a constitutional equivalent to $1. If you took 4 quarters, then it was shy of how many grams of silver is defined in the Constitution.
Okay.
The last time, it's why I carry one with me, the last time we had actual constitutional money is when these Morgan dollars were in circulation, because this Morgan dollar is the exact amount of grams of silver defined in the Constitution. I believe these are of an ounce. It's 0.7738 or 0.7734.
And so, Johnny, just so people understand, that what would the motivation be to take precious metals out of circulation? Would that disable we the people? Would that make us vulnerable from having our own sovereignty, because we wouldn't have our money would be dependent only on what the government says the money is? What would that do to us if we didn't have a way to have precious metals in our own possession?
Well, if you have precious metals in your possession, you are hedging against their misappropriation of funds and their bad actions. Mm-hmm. If you have if you have dollars that are silver that are defined in the Constitution as what is a dollar, and they want to fund Ukraine hundreds of billions of dollars and devalue your dollar, well, you have the metal that is used and that has stable pricing. You have a way to fight them back. Right now, people have no way to fight back. They've taken all the silver out of the coinage. They've unbacked the dollar's no longer backed by gold, which happened in 71. So there's no accountability at all. And that's what fiat currency means. Just a floating currency. It's just backed by faith and trust. There's no backing of it. So people
that's what fiat means, you guys.
Fiat means so people are completely exposed to this fiat system. Not to mention, it wasn't as bad until 2001. At least you had some rights. They roll out the Patriot Act, and they weaponize that against we the people. And like I said, terrorists first. Then I said they'll use it against mafia people. They'll use it against drug dealers. They'll use it against some kid they suspect selling weed, right? Mm-hmm. Then I said, watch. Once that's done, they're going to weaponize this against every single one of us. And what happens now if you go into your bank to open up an account? There's a sign on the counter that says, due to the rules, regulations, and regulatory requirements of the USA Patriot Act, there are certain documents and information we are required to collect for account opening procedures. So they've just weaponized the system against us. That's not supposed to be that way. So people are totally exposed because they're in this system. They're trapped in it. Fiat-based world, no sound money. They've scared most of the public away from Bitcoin because they've clouded it with FTX and stories like that.
Silk Road.
So people are just totally they don't get Bitcoin. Silver and gold. I mean, most people don't understand silver and gold other than jewelry. Half the people out there think, well, isn't my dollar backed by gold? They still think it's backed by gold. They don't even know. Yeah. So they really have dumbed the public down. I mean, poor people have no rights over their money anymore. No rights over it. Your money's in the bank. It's their money. It's a fractional reserve system. There's 2 quadrillion in derivatives. I mean, and now you actually tweeted something today, Lisa. The Biden administration might restrict your ability to withdraw any money out of your bank account because of this. The problem, the federal government's going to be officially broke, I think, in 12 days, where there's no money left. You think they're going to want you withdrawing money from your bank account? No. So, you better.
And that was pulled back off of, I have somebody found it. Here it is. And then they said, I found it on Google when looking for the news. Since then, it's been deleted. But breaking, Biden administration is pushing for freezing of U.S. bank withdrawals amid the decline in M2 money supply.
Yeah.
So they tried to screenshot it.
I mean, and this isn't a thing to say, oh, I'm going to get to it. This is a thing, if you're watching this show for the first time, or maybe you haven't prepared yet or planned yet, this is a now thing. I mean, this is a thing where, I would leave now and don't stop watching the show. Watch us on your way to the ATM. I would withdraw some cash every day. Even though they're firm notes and we say, yeah, they're worthless, you still want to have some cash in your possession for this. You don't want to have all your money in that bank. We don't know what's going to happen when this debt ceiling thing erupts. And like we said, I hope they don't fix it. It's a broken system. You can't keep fixing a broken system. At some point, you have to let the house fall down, and then you have to build a new house. And we're at the point right now where the house is so damaged, it's like a leak that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually you have to say, look, we have to just build something new because this is going to keep leaking. And eventually, if a leak gets too bad, it takes over the whole house. And that's how the leak is now. The house is flooded.
So what are some of the things that we can do, not just money-wise, but I think, when I was looking at that article that was talking about the federal bankruptcy and then powers going back to where the states are going to kick in. And so then if the states are kicking in, then those are positions where a lot of those are empty, or there are clowns in those seats that have not been doing their job. And so that is where we, the people, and you said this earlier, like, no one's real excited about this. The last thing anybody wants to do is like, these are not jobs anybody wants to, this is not a glory job, but these are, like you said, this is a time for those of us to be soldiers, and for those of us to say, like, there's a job to do, and it's time for those of us in the community to say, okay, it's all of our jobs to step in. And I'm struggling with it because I don't want to be complicit in a tyrannical government, but at the same time, what's the saying about all it takes for bad things to happen is for good men to do nothing, or something like that. And
they say tough times build strong men and good times build weak men, which is true. When times are too good and you're too comfortable, you get weak. Tough times build strong men. And I think now's the time to step up at a local level where you have an impact. Like there's talks of trying to force the jab on all kids that go to school. And that's what people got to realize. These are CDC recommendations. Now, locally, they just go along with it. We're in a world where Big Pharma controls us. Big Pharma has such a vice grip on our lives that people just roll over and say, well, those are the doctors, those are the pharmaceutical companies, they know better. They don't. They've changed the definition of vaccine 3 times in the last 5 years. So, people might say, oh, well, they've always had these requirements. Why are you guys making a big deal about it now? They've changed the definition of vaccine. And once the late 90s came, Big Pharma couldn't be sued anymore. And they just started rolling out all this stuff. Now they change. I don't know the exact wording, but it used to be a vaccine provides immunity. Now it provides potential protection. Protection. What if I want to protect myself with sunlight and eating healthy? That should be my right. And my family's right.
So the reason that can't happen is that the FDA has a thing, because Dr. McDaniel and I talk about this. The FDA cannot approve any drug unless it has a proven lethal dose. It cannot be approved. So it has to have a proven lethal dose to be approved. That should scare the hell out of everyone.
That it has to be able to kill you.
Or it cannot be approved.
I started taking something it's called BPC 157. It's a peptide, and it cannot be patented. Now, this is orally.
Probably for that reason.
Some of these peptides are injectable. This happens to be an oral peptide you take. I want a few other of these peptides too. I highly believe in this. This is actually another passion of mine, is anti-aging and the science of longevity and all of that. But this BPC 157, it's so good for healing your body, but it cannot be patented by Big Pharma. And probably for 2 reasons. 1, they haven't found a lethal dose.
Right.
And 2, it's found in your gastric juice. So because it's naturally occurring in your body, they also can't patent it. So coincidentally, doctors hate this stuff. If you if you know, most people that know about
BPC
it,
157 doesn't buy them trips to Hawaii.
it does not. It does not. But it's
conferences to.
You know, I'm a personal testament to this. I started taking it Saturday, and I'm already feeling healed from an injury I had. I mean that
awesome.
quick. I've read a lot of testimonials and watched a lot of podcasts about anti-aging doctors that are into this, saying, wow, this is great stuff. Then if you watch people that are in the pocket of big pharma, they're like, well, there's never been any studies on it, this and that. Yes, there has. These studies just don't get published by the medical industrial complex. What people don't realize either with these medical studies, they do underwriting on them. So they sit there and underwrite the studies that come out on drugs and then decide which studies they use and which ones they don't. So if the study, that's how they were able to show the shot had a 93% effectiveness rate. Of course it didn't. They just did their underwriting.
They can skew their numbers. Yeah. However they want them to be.
You know what I'm saying?
They're pushing
15 studies. They might say we're using these 2.
Right.
And then we're going to throw out the other 13.
Yeah, and the Supreme Court is pressing for the rest of those studies to be released. They were trying to withhold a lot of that information, and that's going to come out here pretty soon. So just you guys hold on there. We're more and more information is coming out. Things are happening really fast, but I think we are coming to a place. I know Glenn Beck is going to be doing a streaming tonight about how you can take action. So I'm going to try to tune into that. I've got a couple other things going on, but I'll be multitasking. And I would encourage you guys to look into it as well. He's got some constitutional lawyers that are going to be attending, as well as I believe some sheriffs or something, some kind of constitutional law enforcement. So check into that and really think about it, seek your heart, talk to your local friends and see where you could take action in your community.
Know your rights right now. And now's not a time to be a coward. Now's a time to stand up.
Right.
And you've had enough. Stand up to these people. Now's not a time to back down and be passive. It's a time to, you know what, meet fire with fire. This is the time to do it. It's where we have a lot of our freedoms at stake. So just be fighters, guys. However you can help. Whatever way you can help. You might not think it's helpful, but it is helpful. Just if everybody does their part, we the people are gonna win.
Yeah, there is lawful and peaceful ways of standing your ground. This is about we the people, and this is the time to take action.
100%.
So love to you all, and we will see you guys tomorrow on Happy Hour, and we'll talk about it more there. So thanks, Johnny. Take care.
Later.